Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to cut the intro short because it's a long night. Me and my brother. It was funny. Is me and Dwayne are two people that get up very early in the morning. But anyway, let's talk two sports. Welcome to our show. We actually Dwayne had tried to convince me last week to do a show, and I was just too tired. Last week was a great week of football. Divisional week is always the best week of football, and I kind of think this week kind of topped it for two games, two championship games. Now we know who's going to be in the Super Bowl. Very interesting week. I think that a lot of fans whose teams aren't in the Super Bowl, I think we need to really, really consider our coaches. And what I mean by that is don't think your coach is stupid or makes dumb mistakes because this new brand of football, no regard for timeouts and no regard for field position. Some of us that are a little older, we got to get that out of our head. The older way of playing football, it's gone. It's gone. Consuming time, worry about your timeouts and playing field position football. Those days are long gone. So it's a new way of playing football. A lot of these new, innovative, great play callers, coaches who I consider are they just don't have no regard for anything else because they believe in their plays so much. They think all their plays is supposed to work, and it's not a defense on the other side of the field. So, without further ado, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? These playoffs don't owe us anything, man. Two more exciting games. I still think last week was better. But two exciting games, two games that came down to the wire. You got another overtime game. Um, and then you had a close game here, man. And so now you got the Bengals, who's a 4 seed, and the Rams, who are 4 seed. Two 4 seeds making it to the Super Bowl. And it's at SoFi, so that's a home game for the Rams. And it'll feel like a home game for the Rams next week because the stadium will be 50-50. Because that wasn't a home game for the Rams tonight.
And the
It
Bengals
seemed
don't.
like
The
it was
Bengals
more
don't have a big
49er
strong.
fans in there.
Yeah, and
But
the Bengals don't have that big strong base like the traditional teams to travel.
yeah, man, two 4 seeds going to the Super Bowl. Two number nines at quarterback, two number nines. So you got the number games going on there. Two 4 seeds, two starting quarterbacks wearing number nine. Um, and if you go to the first game, you got to value possessions, man. Um, 5 seconds to go, you don't have any timeouts. I guess I'm old school and conservative. I'm kicking
Hmm.
the field goal, going up two touchdowns there.
Hmm.
I know you got Patrick Mahomes. I get it, but I'm still kicking the field goal, going up two touchdowns there. Unfortunately, they didn't get in the end zone. They fell short. And then second half, credit the Bengals defensive coordinator, the Bengals defense. They confused Patrick Mahomes. They had him. He looked like he did in the Super Bowl last year, where he was just running for his life. And you know, I had conversations with you and also with Brother Walker, and I get what everybody was saying, where you have to double Jamar Chase. But people got to understand, man, T. Higgins and Boyd, those are good wide receivers, man. So you tried to limit Chase, and T. Higgins got you, you know.
You
One
know,
thing about the Bengals that I like, though, is they stay in their running game, man. They stay with Joe Mixon. And, hey, man, that's a bad offensive line in Cincinnati. And they're making it to the Super Bowl in spite of that offensive line. But my apologies, man. I want to take a quick moment to apologize to Mr. Joe Burrow. I didn't think he would be this good of a pro. He's the first ever first round quarterback to make it in the Super Bowl within 2 years of being drafted one overall. Think about that. It's only his second year in the league, and he's going to be in the Super Bowl. Um, yeah, yeah,
I'm
man.
Dwayne, and I know that when we discuss today's games, and what I want to talk about is adjustments from coaches, and then we'll segue that into I know something that you definitely want to address, as well as myself, is the coaching jobs that have opened up. Um, we usually watch the games via phone, and we discuss everything we see, line play, secondary play, and one thing I want to give you is credit talking about the Bengals in the first half were basically playing sit back. They didn't want to get beat with the big play, and they wasn't challenging the Chiefs. And then the second half, their defensive coordinator, the adjustment he made, I mean, to I'm gonna say it, compared to last year, what Todd Bowles did to Mahomes, what that defensive coordinator the Bengals did to Mahomes in the second half was remarkable. Tyreek Hill had no receptions. They literally shut him down. And if you look at Tyreek Hill, he's so hard to shut down because a screenplay goes down as a reception. So if he gets a screen, that's a reception, gets 1 yard, that's a reception. So what I mean is that they whatever they were doing, like you said, was confusing Mahomes. They got tight. I think that you called it on that 5 second with one play when they didn't kick the field goal instead of trying to like the knockout blow. I think that Coach Reed, Bieniemy, whoever called that play, I think it was a bad coaching job. I think they really gave momentum back to the Bengals because I think the Bengals got confidence going into halftime, and you've seen it. And even so much going into overtime. Let's get one thing straight: Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL
Mhm.
right now. They played to go to overtime. They played to kick a field goal. I never thought I would say that about the best quarterback in the NFL. And it showed that they were scared to let cool Joe Burrow get the ball. And Joe Burrow got the ball after his interception and went right down there, got them in field goal percentage. And it's,
Well,
I think they treated, I don't want to say pressure, but a lot of times what we don't understand, and I think that us as laymen, we look at professional athletes and think that they're supposed to always come through in the clutch. And when you look at the Chiefs last week in that game, to come back and to have a mental game like that again, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you to have that type of focus. And, you got to tip your cat to everything that Zach Taylor's did. Zach Taylor was on the hot seat. Me and you watched the game last year together with the Bengals and the Eagles right before Joe Burrow tore his knee. And we saw some things in a good way for Joe Burrow, but in a bad way for the coach. That if they learn to run the ball, they could be a problem. I'm not saying we called it because I did not think they would be in the Super Bowl. I like to tip my cap to Mike Brown as an owner who learned to step back and let his feet football people do it, and he listened to his quarterback. His quarterback said, "I don't want Penny Sewell." Penny Sewell clearly would have been the best lineman on that team. He said, "I want my best friend. Go get this receiver, Jamar Chase." And they already got receivers. They went and got them, and they go to Super Bowl. And tip your cat to the Bengals, the Bengal fans. I only know a couple. Your nephew's a big Bengal fan, as well as the brother who used to go by the name Kelvin Green of the Green family. He changed his name when he moved, but he's a diehard Bengal fan. And shout out to Bengal Nation, as they would say. And interesting loss for the Chiefs. I think Andy Reid might be ready to retire.
I don't know. I just think, you're at home. It's a tough one to lose. You got an 18-point lead. That's the first time in his career that Mahomes has lost a game where he had at least an 18-point lead in it. But like I said, I want to give a lot of credit to the Bengals. I want to give them Zach Taylor credit for sticking with his game plan. And their defensive coordinator did a hell of a job. And the defense did a hell of a job in the second half. I love that they stay with the running game. They got the two Oklahoma Sooners in the backfield, uh, Joe Mixon and Samaj P. Ron. So, hey, man, they lost their best tight end, but the Rams secondary is going to have their hands full, man, with Chase Higgins and Boyd, man. Those is 3 wide receivers combo, trio
And they all
rather,
three could play the 3 positions.
that everybody talks about Chase. They don't give Boyd and Higgins enough credit, man. And Joe Burrow, man, he knows how to use his feet at the right time. He's cool, man. He's a cool customer. And that was it, man. Bengals, man. My nephew was very excited. I'm happy for him. I know a couple other Bengal fans. Very happy for him. And one thing about the Bengals, when they get to AFC Championship games, as a franchise, they win. They're now 3-0 in AFC Championship
Student
games.
going against disciple too. Zach Taylor comes from out of, I'll say, the Kyle Shanahan. It's funny because it goes all the way back to Bill Walsh. The Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. Everybody says they're McVay's coaching tree, but it's actually started with Kyle Shanahan hiring
Well, it started
McVay.
with Mike Shanahan.
Yeah, with Mike and
Mike Shanahan, Kyle's
it,
father.
then it goes back to Coach Walsh because it's really the West Coast offense
Yeah.
without the H back, as they would say. What about this last game, Dwayne?
You know, the 49ers is going to beat you with a power running game. They're going to beat you with good defense. They're going to beat you with special teams. And they want Jimmy Garoppolo to do just enough. Now, I put something on Facebook, and I had a couple of 49er fans jump on me when I put it. But you could tell very early in that game, the 49ers were very chippy. A lot of late hits, a lot of talking.
Came back to haunt them in one play.
And it came back to haunt them because in the second half, fourth quarter, them refs was calling that. They got what? A taunting penalty. They got a blow to the head penalty. Mm-hmm. Come on, man. Like, I'm all for setting the tone, but you got to be smart too, man. Those were 2 pretty hard penalties to take. And that was just being too aggressive, over aggressive. But I like the way the 49ers play. Listen, when it comes to this game of football, everybody know I'm a Cowboy fan, but I can separate that. So you have your opinions and then people getting their feelings and talking about, well, where the Cowboys at? We know where they at, man. This is about football. It's about loving the game of football and
just bring them octopus. Just bring them octopus tentacles out there because we need some more bait because we fishing already. So when you're come out there.
I'm just saying, like, you love the game of football. I only got one more game left, man. Listen, I hope the USFL entertains me in April. I only got one more football game left, man. So get a little sad about that. But the Rams went all in, man. The way that they handled it, not having draft picks, getting Jalen Ramsey, getting Matt Stafford, getting Von Miller, getting Odell during the middle of the year. They put all their chips. They set all in. And they got one more hand to play, and that's at SoFi. So Rams, Bengals, I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. Make sure, gentlemen, that you get your shopping done because it's February 13th and the next day is Love Day. So don't have your women being short because you're worried about the Super Bowl, man. Make sure you do what you got to do. She gonna give you the Super Bowl.
It's gonna be a rough weekend if you making plans that weekend. You better do it Saturday because if you think you're gonna do it Sunday,
she gonna give you the Super Bowl. But you better expect she gonna expect that.
Just know that the day. Just know that the good thing about that day for the people that do celebrate Valentine's Day, like Dwayne is reiterating, is that the Monday after the Super Bowl is the most called off day of the year in America. More people call off on the day after the Super Bowl than any other day. So you might want to put your bid in early and take one of them PTO days or one of them personal days now and just be like, look, Boop, we might as well take off and spend some time all day today together, go to lunch, cook her dinner, think of all the special nice things that you may want to do if you celebrate the day. Dwayne, me and you had talked about some things about all week. Me and you've been talking about coaches. And this is where I want to segue because we'll do a pregame for the Super Bowl. We know the matchup. And you had said a while ago, one thing about McVay's guys is they always get these coaching jobs. And one of McVay's guys who was a head coach and he deserves another shot is Raheem Morris, and he pitched a shutout in the second half. Let's talk about these coaches in the NFL.
I
And
don't know that he pitched the shutout in the second half.
oh
49ers
yeah,
had
yeah,
some
yeah,
tough.
they did score. They did score. The one touchdown Kittle.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the coaches and the coaching jobs that's running around the NFL. I know, man, you've been going back and forth talking about it privately. And
Well, there's 9 openings in the NFL. There's 9 openings in the NFL right now. If you look at the current landscape of the NFL, 32 teams. You have Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh as an African American coach, and the other minority is Ron Rivera in Washington with the football team. But only one African American coach, man. And so now you have 9 opportunities here. And the Raiders, the Giants, the Broncos,
Chicago,
and Chicago. It's 4 to 9. I've already picked their coaches. And no African American has been hired, right? So if you just look at pure resumes of the gentlemen that have been hired so far, Josh McDaniels, his speak for itself. He's with Bill Belichick, so he got a lot of championships under his name, being with the Patriots. He was a one-time head coach of the Raiders. So, okay, his resume looks better than Eric Bieniemy's, in my opinion. When you look at Eberflus, when you look at Nathaniel Hackett, when you look at Brian Dable, their resumes are not better than Eric Bieniemy's. Okay, Eric Bieniemy has been to 2 Super Bowls, and he won one of them. The Chiefs have been to, what is it, 4 AFC
four
championship
straight
games.
AFC championships at home.
Um, you saw today he's calling the plays. Like, so let's get that underway. He's calling the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the NFL has to make better strides in that regard, man. Like, they got to make better strides in that regard because what's left? Miami, New Orleans, Minnesota,
Jacksonville
Texans, and
and Jacksonville.
I would have thought Brian Flores would have been the first coach hired.
Because his firing shocked the world.
Right. And he's not. So, being fair in this hiring cycle, you had a very good thing with the general manager hirings. You got Ryan Poles, the new general manager of the Bears. And you have the young fella from New Jersey, Quizzy, I hope I say his name right.
Kwesi
Mensah. So these two gentlemen are going to have an opportunity, but Ryan Poles has already gotten some backlash because he is the gentleman. Who hired Eberflus. So
he's African American.
Right, and a lot of people thought he should have been with the African American. He should have went with African American, but I don't know that you could put that on him.
One of the things, Dwayne, and you brought up Kwesi getting hired, is Kwesi is originally from New Jersey, and for those that don't know, the ownership group, the Wilfs, is from Livingston, New Jersey. Actually, have the biggest real estate company in New Jersey, and one of the things that me and you talked about is that these guys are hiring, quote unquote, people who they know and people who they're comfortable with. I don't know if Poles knew who Eberflus was. Eberflus is somebody that yourself and myself have rooted for years. He worked his way through the ranks in the Cowboy ranks as a linebacker coach. And, he's been around the Ryans for a while. And one of the things that me and you have discussed privately is that nobody ever said about some of the things that was in Eric Bieniemy's past. And you said that somebody had finally mentioned it in the media. Eric Bieniemy had a situation, and I'm not here to talk about his situation, but I just want to note it that if you just Google it, you'll find out what happened to him in college, and it wasn't no more greater or less than anybody else that's in college that gets in trouble. Uh, but I don't think that what he did should stop him of being able to be in charge of men. But a lot of times these teams and these coaches and the quarterback are the face of organizations, which is crazy because at the end of the day, if Coach Reed
Well,
retires, he's gonna be he's gonna get a head coaching job with the Chiefs eventually.
yeah. Just to clarify for people, right? The incident happened in 1993. It happened in Boulder, Colorado, where he went to college, but he was already in the NFL. He's in the NFL. He was drafted in the NFL in 1991, and he had an incident, unfortunately, and you know he had to go through his process. He went through his process. He did what he had to do, you know, and but you're talking something that happened 29 years ago, and he's been went on had an NFL career, and he's been coaching in the NFL for many years. Kansas City is not his first job.
He's been coaching for the last 15 years.
Yeah, so that's why that incident I don't think should be hindering him. Um, it's a problem. We need more African American coaches in NFL. And for me, it's a slap in the face to these African American coordinators out there that a Josh McNown could be getting a second interview out of the Houston Texans and potentially is supposedly the leader to get that job. And he has not coached on the college level or the pro level. He was an assistant high school football coach. So the only thing he's done is been a backup quarterback in the NFL that has gotten a couple of starts. If this man can get a second interview and get hired by the Houston Texans, we got a real big problem on our hands, man. Got a very big problem on our hands. And it's something that the Troy Vincent, Merton Hanks, and all them have to address with Roger Goodell because the Rooney Rule is not working, man. It's getting people, it's almost like it's a farce, man. Let me just bring in two African Americans to satisfy this, but I'm still going to hire who I'm going to hire. And for a league that's 70% African American, like I said, big strides made with offensive and defensive coordinators, special teams coordinators, front office personnel, general managers, director of player personnel. But we all know the true face of these franchises is the man that you see on the field on Sundays or Thursdays or whatever night the NFL games are played. Do I blame the league? I think it's more of an owner's problem than a league problem because the owners are the ones who have to pull the trigger on these hires, man, and they're just not doing it. It's like we're going in reverse, man. You could look back 15 years ago. It was more African American coaches 15 years ago than it is today, and that's a problem. And I love this game. Everybody know it. but you got to be able to call out shortcomings, and there's definitely a shortcoming here.
And you see that a lot of these coaches, a lot of these African American coaches who still want to coach, the guys like Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis actually was out in Arizona State helping out Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards is coaching Arizona State, and he has Antonio Pierce on his staff. Then you have Hugh Douglas. I mean Hugh Jackson, who chose to take the coaching job like Grambling State because he still wants to coach. Then you have Eddie George coaching at Tennessee State. You have Dion coaching at Jackson State. Then you have all the black assistant coaches. I think it was 7 you counted last year on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers staff alone. Um, and I know that the chess move that we think that Byron Leftwich is trying to pull, and I commend Brian Leftwich for doing it. I mean, a lot of times when you come in, the way you come into this fold of coaching will be the way you go out, and sometimes you have to take a stand with coaching because you need to be able to work with people, and when you see that you can't work with people, don't compromise. I agree with you 1,000% that it really is not the the league per se. It's the owners, and it's like, okay, the owners are hiring GMs, and I know I got into a disagreement with someone, and they said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. The GMs don't hire coaches. I disagree with that. The GMs do hire coaches. A lot of ownerships, like we grew up in the New York area. The Maras are known for just getting out the way. The Maras are known for hiring GMs and saying, "You run our franchise." Since Wilmington married passed away, the son has made some decisions that a lot of Giant fans may be upset. However, he's hired GMs and they've been
Thing
hiring
about John
coaches.
Mara in this situation, if you believe what's reported, he was really enamored with Brian Flores. Interviewed him, was really enamored with him. Wanted him to be the Giants head coach. But he said, I hired this general manager to do a job. So it should be really his call on who he wants to be the head coach. And so you pretty much knew that Joe Shine was going to take Brian Dable because they're both from Buffalo. And they're also bringing Ken Dorsey in with them from Buffalo. Um, yeah, man. Like you look at the Raiders, right? Raiders hired a general manager from New England Patriots. Who are they bringing? Josh McDaniels from the New England Patriots.
I
So a
must
lot
admit,
of times in these positions, people hire who they're comfortable with. So you got the African American general manager with the Vikings, and one of the first things he did was ask the University of Michigan for permission to speak to Jim Harbaugh. Why? Because he worked for Jim Harbaugh out in San Francisco. So pretty much when you get put in these positions, man, like it's not uncommon for people to go with who they're comfortable with. But my problem is when you look at a Nathaniel Hatchett, and I hate to keep calling him out. He's the Green Bay Packers, was the Green Bay Packers offense coordinator, who didn't call plays because Matt LaFleur called the plays there. And if you put his resume up against Eric Bieniemy's, it's not even close.
if you put his resume up against anybody's, it's not even close. He is probably the least qualified candidate
Well, I'm
that
just
got a
talking about
job.
Eric Bieniemy now because Eric Bieniemy can't get
And I think it's offensive.
opportunity.
I think to add to your point, I think that it's offensive that the letter networks have basically said, well, if he delivers Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay, that was a good hire. Aaron Rodgers to Denver, that was great. So what if he delivers? He was not qualified. It was other candidates that was overqualified, because Eric Bieniemy is overqualified for a job.
Mm.
Leslie Frazier's overqualified. So to say that these guys are getting these jobs ahead of these guys that are overqualified, it's actually a crime. One of the things I know that you talked about Josh McCown getting a job. I have a major problem with Josh McDaniel. I have a problem with the Raiders. The Raiders, if anybody knows anything about what the Raiders did, the Raiders were in trouble financially in Oakland. They were hemorrhaging money. Before Al Davis died, what Godell did is they said, we're going to get you a personnel guy. The same thing Pete Rozelle did for the Giants by getting George Young. The NFL stepped in. They went and got a personal guy, McKinney, out of Green Bay. He went to the Raiders and he changed their franchise. Drafted Khalil Mack, drafted a Cooper, drafted Carr, changed how they changed their personnel department. The first thing young Davis did when he had the opportunity is he fired him and hired Mayock and Gruden. And that backfired on him. Some situations he had no control of, but he should have kept McKinney there as his personnel guy. And now for him to hire a GM from New England, who nobody from New England has been successful up until this point. And then you go hire Josh McDaniel, who's a known cheater, and a guy who took a job and then turned his back on the team the next day. I think it speaks volumes to what the problem is. Like you said, I agree. McDaniels do got skin on the wall as a winner, but it's like you guys get all these opportunities, and Eric Bieniemy can't even get out the starting gate. So I don't know the solution, Dwayne, because at the end of the day, these guys are going to hire who they feel comfortable with, and you or me or outside entities shouldn't come to a guy who owns their team and say you got to hire this person or else. Or else what? I know that the NFL has tried to give teams incentives.
Yeah, it just
But
looks bad. It looks bad. Like it, and not only does it look bad, it is bad. It's a bad thing for the NFL. It's no two ways around it. It's a bad thing. No matter if the owners ain't doing it, I don't know what Goodell could do. I don't know what Trey Vincent could do. I don't know what Merton Hanks can do. But something definitely has to be done. If you come with 9 new coaches and you get no African Americans hired, 9,
and I know
and then you
Dwayne
consider what happened last year, I think it was 8
and I know
hired.
Dwayne said that it was only 2 minority coaches, 3. Robert Sala is Arab, but a lot
Yeah,
of people forget. A lot of people forget that, but still, it should be way more African American coaches. And I know that we could sit and say who should get hired out of any of them. It's 2 people that should get hired, and it's Eric Bieniemy and it's Byron Leftwich. If you look at their resumes, them 2 should get hired. You may say, well, Leslie Frazier and Todd been coaches before. Okay, be that as it may, but Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator. Listen, you guys, Matt Nagy. Who else came off that staff? Peterson got coaching jobs before Bieniemy, and everybody knows the offensive coordinator is considered the right hand man to the head coach. So there's no reason that
yeah.
Peterson got a job.
You know, we got Dan Quinn, who's defense coordinator of the Cowboys, and he was a head coach. Didn't go well. Went to the Super Bowl though, didn't win it, and he was one of the hottest commodities to interview. You got Raheem Morris, who's about to go to a Super Bowl, defense coordinator for the Rams, no interviews. And it's not like you say, oh, well, his team is still playing. No. NFL changed that rule too. Teams had an opportunity to interview him already. Now it's shut down because of conference championships and the Super Bowl. But Raheem Morris can't get another opportunity.
And if you know anything about Raheem Morris, yes, he's local from New Jersey, not too far from me and Dwayne and myself grew up at. But if you know anything about him when he was a head coach in Tampa Bay was going through a major ownership change when him and Shiano was coaching down there. So understand that when you're coaching, it's not always about wins and losses. Sometimes you have to right the organization, ride the ship, and weather the storm of what the organization is going through internally. So they didn't have no first round picks, so when they traded for Gruden, so understand that Raheem deserves another shot. He was a good defensive coordinator when he went down there in Atlanta. He's earned his bones in the league. It's just the Nathaniel Hatchett
Listen, the
signing.
Dolphins are down to 2. And they're both going to be able to interview now because the 49ers offensive coordinator got eliminated. So allegedly they're down to 2. Kellen Moore and the offensive coordinator here. The Texans, I don't know. I would think Flores, but everybody's on this Luke McCown, which is crazy to me. So you don't know there. Vikings, you know, they've already interviewed 2 African American candidates. So I don't know what's going to happen there. So it's going to be very bad for the NFL, man, if you got 9 new head coaches and you don't have not one African American amongst them. There's no other way around it, man. It's going to be bad. And
if anybody watching in the chat, whether you're watching this live or in the future, come up with a solution because I'm telling you, I don't think there is none. I don't know what the NFL can do, and I know that a lot of our activists have been saying something, and it's very easy to throw racism on certain things, because at the end of the day, as Dwayne always says, you got to know the room and you got to know the optics, how things look, and it doesn't look good, and it makes the NFL look really, really bad. Um, but at the end of the day, what can the NFL do? They can't force these owners to hire people.
they're trying to do everything they can, man. They're trying to give
And
draft picks. They're trying to give money. They adjusted the Rooney Rule now, saying that you got at least interview two minority candidates. So they're doing all this, right? And yet the owners are still making the decisions that the owners are making. And yes, general managers, for the most part, hire these coaches. But at the end of the day, the owner has to sign off on it. I could be a general manager. I could make a suggestion, but I ain't cutting the damn checks. The owner's still cutting the checks. And it's going to be a good thing when we finally get our first African American owner in NFL. No, you cannot overlook the fact that 2 African American general managers were hired in this cycle. Can't overlook that fact. Why is a Lou Riddick not getting another opportunity to run an organization? I'll never know. I'll never know why Lou Riddick, who's
yeah,
smart, great talent evaluator, I'll never know.
who has the relationships around the league to be able to build? Very, very interesting thing. Very interesting thing. But Dwayne, uh, we got one more game, man, and then me and you going
Very
to.
interesting, man. Like when it was in the preseason, I had picked the Rams Bills Super Bowl. So the Rams held up their end of the bargain. Hey, but man, give these Bengals credit, man. Everybody's picking against them. They will be a prohibited underdog against the Rams. I mean, by time of kickoff, that line's probably going to be about 5.5, 6. Everybody's going to be on the Rams, but the Bengals say who they, and they
I don't
just
know,
going to do what they
Jesse.
do.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic with your statement. Isn't there enough blacks in the NFL? We're talking about black coaches. There is some hiring, so I don't know if you're being sarcastic or what, or you just read the broadcast. But I'll entertain your comment. There isn't enough black head coaches in the NFL,
Yeah, I don't know what that's
and
about.
I will say, he answered again. Everything isn't about Jesse. You're right. Everything isn't about the color of the skin. However, when you have a league that has 70% black players, you would expect that the coaches would be 70% black coaches. Nobody's asking for 70% black coaches, but you want to see some diversity. And me and Dwayne was talking prior to you probably joining the broadcast. The NFL has made strides, but if you go back 15 years, it was more black coaches 15 years ago than now. The NFL has made a lot of strides as far as diversity with women. There's a lot of women coaches, a lot of women officials. However, you want your leagues to basically show the demographic of who's playing in your league to be a coaching in executive positions. This is why diversity is never talked about in baseball because majority of people in baseball are Latino.
Hmm.
So when you talk about management, it's it's major Latino management. It's diversity all over. So nobody ever speaks about that. Even in basketball, you have diversity with the coaches and the players. So this is why in the NFL is so much being talked about. I know that for a person that may not be black or African American, you may be like, and I don't know if you are, Jesse, and I'm like I said, I don't know if you were being sarcastic or not, and I'm trying to explain to you the best way. For a person that may not be black or African American, you'd be like, well, why they always talk about race? But why they gotta be black? Why they gotta be black? You want the people who are making decisions to basically look like the product you're putting on the field. There has always been a stereotype in the NFL that the blacks cannot quarterback. As we see, it's 12 black quarterbacks now. Even some players that are would be considered mixed race. So I don't want, or we don't want nobody to feel offended. Like, what's the big deal with having a black coach? There is a big deal with having a black coach. Definitely, when you talk about qualifications for jobs, when you look at the history of the country that we live in, a lot of people get passed over just because of the color of their skin. Dwayne brought up Josh McCown. If you follow Josh McCown, he was a career backup his whole career. Never coached on no level but an assistant high school coach. Why should he become a head coach over somebody who has been an assistant for 10, 12 years? The resume doesn't add up. That's what we're saying. So, you want to give people an equal opportunity at a job. So, I don't know if I explained it to you simple enough for you to understand it. And, we want to bring clarity and get people to understand what's going on. Me, Dwayne, and myself are big NFL fans. The number two, and me and Dwayne, we're very objective on this issue. We don't run and say, "Oh, it's racism." Me and Dwayne follow this issue very seriously, and we're passionate about it. And we listen to both. We argue with each other over the issue. Um, the number two and number three guys that run the NFL are African American. A lot of people don't know that. Me and Dwayne know that, and we try to tell everybody look, a lot of executives are black. A lot of new executives
Seven
just got
GMs, man.
hired. So 7 black GMs in the
Seven
NFL.
GMs.
So it's not like we're not acknowledging that. It's just that a lot of people have been talking about the African American coaches, and so we just bring our perspective to it as well. Wayne, you
Yeah.
got anything you want to say before we close out,
Listen,
brother?
man. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, you know. And if you don't think this country, in a lot of different regards, race is the number one issue out there, man. Let's not try to hide behind the fact that it's not. It's about having opportunity, okay? It's about being put to the same standard as the others that are going for jobs, having the same opportunities. You understand what I'm saying? Something's not adding up. The Rooney rule is not effective anymore. And it's a problem that needs to be addressed. So in this situation, it is about the color of the skin. And I'm offended that you're taking it lightly and saying everything isn't about the color of your skin. Because in this situation, something's not adding up. And it's something that the NFL has to look at very seriously.
With that, we'll see you guys for our pre Super Bowl show. It'll probably come on Super Bowl Sunday, most likely in the AM. With that, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, let's talk to sports and join you. Take care.